All right. See if anybody's on.
Nobody yet. Oh, one person's on.
Oh, somebody's on. Please feel free to say hi on the chat. We'll wait for more people to come on.
Is that you, Cindy?
Who knows?
Oh.
Nope. Never mind. Oh, yeah, we'll give it 2 more minutes before we start.
Somebody came back on.
Thank you for coming.
Hello.
All right. We'll start in about a minute.
Hello.
It's okay. Well, even though this is live, it'll be left here for people to view later if they like. So let's get started. All right. All right. So for those of you or single one of you that have joined, welcome. This is Shiro and Jenny.
Hi.
From Guided Soul-ution. This is this is our first challenge with the YouTube live, but this was very important for us to do today. This is the cycle, the lunar year. We have just celebrated the Lunar New Year. So happy New Year to everyone on an energetic level. This lunar year is the actual year cycle for our consciousness, our energy, our spirit, not the hard date on calendar. And with it, we've definitely gone through some profound changes. That's the definite sense that we all have, not just simply from what we saw around us in the world, but just overall our sense of inner change that we've been going through, in which the external world has greatly assisted in triggering and being a catalyst too. So, with that said, I just want to do a very quick review of the year 2020 and what that was for all of us. When we take the 3 major events that's sort of been the most outstanding part of the social event in our world. One being the COVID, of course, and the second being the civil unrest or the clash between the perpetrator and victim, sort of, as well as, of course, the aggressive pursuit for social justice. And then the third, of course, is the election. And all three of those elements are pointing to one thing, and that is for us to detach from the external world and for us to connect with who we are inside, to connect within. And primarily, there are definitely one primary quality that three events are really helping for us to to detach from, and that is the energy of codependence. So when we look at codependence, we tend to kind of see codependence more in a relationship kind of context. However, when we are at all reactive, in other words, connecting to the outside world to sort of dictate or to set the pace of our days, our lives, our thoughts, our decisions, that is also a form of attachment to the external, which its essence still a codependent energy at work. So when we look at, let's say, for example, the COVID, when people are afraid, concerned for their safety, their well-being, and even their life, their health, that it's left to chance, that if I do this, I might get COVID. If I do that, if I might. And that is the thought that whether it's COVID, whether it's car accidents, whether it's any kind of illness, that our well being is left in the hands of chance. And that's where um, fear comes in. Because in the end, anytime we put our trust outside of ourselves, we are designed to feel a sense of insecurity. Okay. So it's all about, and especially with COVID, because we can see that there is really no black and white definitive answer as to what can truly be safe or preventative. This particular phenomena is designed to be ambiguous. That if you do this, you'll be just fine. That there is no clear guideline. And lack of clear guideline, again, triggers either the fear or a sense that, you know what, then I'm just going to have to go with how I feel. I'm just have to trust in my connection to some sense of divine providence, a sense of guidance, or sense of faith, sense of my own navigation. When we look at the civil unrest, what's happening with racism or any kind of war, any kind of relationship between the oppressor and the victim, that we still have to also, again, when there's an emotional outburst, for asking the perpetrator, asking the violator to take responsibility. Yes, absolutely, on a physical level. In this reality, we know that when something is against the rules, we know that when something is against the law, that we assume that in this particular structure, three-dimensional reality structure, that there's some kind of punishment. And so we seek it. But as you know, if you have ever been in the victim seat, revenge or justice, someone being punished for what they did, it doesn't truly heal who we are. It doesn't truly alleviate or release us from our pain. And even when someone that violated us is punished and we can witness this punishment, the sense of gloating or sense of satisfaction from that punishment, in its essence, is the same energy that the perpetrators or the bullies have when they also violate others. In other words, it's the same thing. We're just simply perpetuating, we're becoming the very thing that violated us. And so, in the end, when we look at the mechanism of forgiveness, when we look at the mechanism of release from being a victim, is that we own our portion of that experience. When the victims take their experience to own it for themselves, that's when we heal. Because in the end, every experience that comes into our lives, the moment it enters our reality, there is a resonance. We cannot share a experience or a reality together with someone or something that we don't have the resonance to. This is different than victim shaming. This is for us to say, as long as we were part of this, this experience is uniquely designed for me. And I own my portion of this experience. And I take that and I make the conscious choice to stop or release my victimized mindset, and now to take this as a catalyst for me to become empowered. Because the only thing that causes us the pain of this violation that we may have ever experienced, whether in bullying or racism or any type of victimized situation, is for us to think that we are a victim. When we believe that we are a victim, when we become or step into the state of blame, we disown or we relinquish our portion of that experience that someone else did it to us. And therefore, we block our access from what that experience is really trying to tell us for our own karmic healing or any kind of sense that we are losing power. See, same thing with stress. It isn't the circumstance that causes the stress. It is the belief in us, in that circumstance, that when we are experiencing it, that we believe that we're not supposed to be experiencing it. And the moment we feel like we're not supposed to be experiencing it is when we feel stress. So the acceptance of that particular experience opens the door for us to go toward the path of peace and healing. Because whatever triggered us is not the true cause. Whatever triggered us is simply the trigger to bring something that was pre-existent to the surface. So again, when we look at the social uh, clash we see again a call to own, to detach from what others are doing to others, but to see what that is doing to us. What is that pointing to us, within us? Let the civil outcomes do what the civil outcomes need to do. But we're not here to police other people's behavior. We're here right now because we are interested in what that means to us. The third event, the election. It's one thing to be observant and aware of what's happening to us in our political atmosphere, but to have an emotional reaction as to what the president is doing or what the next president is going to do. And if we have a better leader, we're going to have a better world. Or when we have a bad leader, that our world is doomed and my daily happiness is threatened. Any kind of emotional reaction is a need for someone to do it for us, to speak for us, because we cannot speak for ourselves, because we have no power, because we are at the mercy of what our authorities, our leaders, or teachers, or even our parents validate for us. Again, any sense of emotional reaction to what the election was doing is a call to say, does it matter? Should that dictate how you? Yes, some people will say, United States is way better off than any other world. Our bar is so high that if we have any sense of lowerment, that we feel like our freedom is threatened. But there are people resilient under much more strenuous conditions because it is their choice. If we wait for the outside world, our societal or political structure to be right, for us to feel right, again, that is an energy of codependence, that we are being guided to either further attach ourselves or to begin to detach and coming back to our sense of divinity. What does that really mean? People may ask. My last newsletter's message, or the title, was to regain our sovereignty. What does sovereignty really mean? It's not just about control. It isn't about controlling the situation. That's not what sovereignty means. Sovereignty means that no matter what is happening around us, that we are not reactive, that we are centered and aligned with who we are, aligned with our own potential, aligned with our authenticity, that we're not needing to change, to accommodate, or to recondition ourselves to be compliant with something else. Now, it's different than simply just being rebellious. It's different than that because within our center, we will desire to respect ourselves and we will desire to be respected. And so it would not be aligned to act in disrespect to others. See, rebellion occurs when something is suppressed for a long time and it just explodes. It's got an explosive need to be heard. But again, in the end, who we need to be heard by the most is us. We need to hear ourselves. We need to know who we are. When we know who we are, and when we know that we have nothing to lose because we're not looking for anything to gain from the outside, that the outside world is a response to who we are. When we realize that the world is not, or the life is not happening to us, but that life is responding to us, that's when we step back into our sovereignty. And in our state of sovereignty, we will inherently know. You don't have to logically figure it out. You don't have to know how this works, but there's a sense of knowing, you see, that we are creating our reality. We can definitely go into the quantum physics and the true mechanism of how this particular three-dimensional reality is a reflection of our consciousness, reflection of our state of being. We can use analogies all day long that if you believe you have bad luck, that you will continue to confirm that by encountering what seems to be bad luck to you. If we continually operate on the victim energy, we will encounter bullies. We will constantly be triggered by the injustice of the world. But 2020, as we now step into the true 2021, was our opportunity, and it will still continue to be for those of us that are still going through it, a trigger to go within. You see, our mind reacts, but our heart responds when we start to live not from our head, but from our heart. We cultivate a community. December 21st was the great conjunction, the planetary alignment, the rare planetary alignment that triggered the opening of a new age, what they say as the age of Aquarius. And you guys could definitely look up what that truly means. But one of the prominent representation of the age of Aquarius is that we're shifting from separation consciousness into unity consciousness, from competitive society into a more community-based society, synergy-based society. When we begin to realize that we cannot continue to depend on the world around us, we start to take it into our own hands to cultivate our own ideal society. And it starts with our own selves and our closest circles, how we treat each other, how we begin to honor each other, how we begin to respect ourselves, our own unique, like our fingerprint, like no one else, journey. Then we begin to realize that everyone around us, including if you're parents, even your children, have come here with their own unique story, agenda, and purpose. That none of us are in the place to dictate for anyone else. One thing that a lot of people misunderstand about unity, they misunderstand unity with uniformity. Unity does not mean for us to look and act the same way or to believe in the same things. Unity consciousness becomes even more powerful when we are all different. Love becomes more greater in its activity when we disagree, when we don't like each other. That's when love is at its greatest, especially if someone is inflicting pain on others or ourselves. That's when love has the chance to speak louder. And that's when unity consciousness is powerful. And in that unity consciousness, we are at our maximum potential, which is infinite possibilities. That's what divine nature represents. We don't realize how much we operate on our own or preconditions, limiting beliefs. We have to work in order to get money. That's a belief. There are a lot of people who want to be wealthy. They want to be free, financial freedom, abundance. And yet, as we say those things with our mouth, our heart is still latching on to, well, this is the only way I get income. Because we were conditioned to believe that we have to earn to have. And to the extent that we want to enjoy having by having a sense of reward, that's what we continue to perpetuate. And there's nothing wrong with that. But if that is limiting you, if that is frustrating you, that's your inner voice saying, hey, you're in a cage. You're putting yourself in a cage. If you want abundance, lift your limiting beliefs that it has to be this way or that way. In my sessions, I have countless clients struggling with a sense of needing to earn love or sense of earning respect. That's something that's been told to us over and over. Respect is earned. No, respect is a side effect of who you are, who you truly embrace. When someone is unapologetic about who they are, regardless of what that polarity might be, even if you're the worst asshole in the world, you will still have somebody respecting you. There's something about being apologetic or unapologetic of who you are that already commands some sense of respect. Then it's just a matter of preference. So, coming back to the review of 2020, is that was the year where we set a sort of sift from the reactive reality, reacting to what's happening and deciding what to do for ourselves. But when we begin to own it, when we stop needing to change according to what the world is. We become responsive. And responsive means that it comes with our own unique signature of intent. When we react, we're just constantly being hurled around, like being in a whirlpool storm. But when we become responsive, when we see what's happening and it triggers us to set an intent for ourselves of who to be, what to do, in order to secure our sense of center, our sense of peace, our sense of clarity of our own path, we sit in the eye of the storm. That's sovereignty. And for those of us that went through it, the loss of jobs, change of residence, death of our loved ones, being the victim of circumstance, and those of us that made the conscious choice to leverage off of those experiences to propel ourselves to a higher sense of consciousness in any way. If you are here right now, as a matter of fact, the mere fact that you're here and watching this, you have already awakened. You have come to your own sense of spirituality, that you become, that you're a spiritual being or a conscious living being having this physical experience. We're changing the narrative from seeing is believing to believing is seeing. And so, congratulations to you. Now, having said that, this new year, Lunar New Year, one like no other, very powerful, at least as powerful as history has ever known. Because why? This is sort of the peak of all that has accumulated from our known history. Hi, Shiro. From our known history, this is the climactic sort of peak. No wonder they call it the Great Reset. And with it, timeline is accelerating. Time is literally accelerating. And I've read an article that Earth is actually spinning slightly faster. That we may actually need to start to adjust our clocks. But that's not the point. The point is that change is happening much more on an accelerated rate. Our consciousness are making leaps of changes. Hi, yes. And when our state of being is going through a rapid change, whether we know it or not on a conscious level is not the point, because it's happening within us in our subconscious, in our spirit. What our conscious mind can process is just the surface of it. It's what we feel inside, not what we think in our head. Our body has to continue to play catch up to the consciousness is going fast because it knows no time. It can process a whole lifetime stories within days if we need to, or even in an instant. But nonetheless, when we are going through a rapid vibrational change, our physical body is going to feel it. So that's the update today, to let you know, to reflect on the powerful year that we've gone through. And regardless of how you may think, it's not about performance or result. It's not about achieving a level. It's about sensing, becoming aware, and being responsive to the changes around us. If that is what happened to you, right now your body is feeling it because your body is trying to continue to readjust to the vibrational change that your consciousness have gone through in order to keep housing your consciousness within this avatar. So you'll feel tired, sense of lethargy, lack of motivation, having sleepless nights, appetites changing, suddenly losing interest in the things that you love to do, which is just a momentary dip. Sometimes it's literal call to detach. So if you feel like you're suddenly losing interest in something that you love to do, don't fret. It may mean that it's outdated for you now, that you are now ready to move on to something different, something more greater, expansive. Or it could just mean temporarily detach. When we detach from something, our connection to what it is becomes more unconditional in its love, as attachment is connection with conditional love. So when we detach from something we love, we don't disconnect. We have a momentary detachment or a sense of stepping into the state of unconditional love for it. And so, again, even if you're meant to continue to do something that you love, when you feel a sense of loss in motivation, take that as a sign to say, you know what, it's time for me to just let it be for now. Because the revisitation may mean that you'll see it in a whole new light. You'll approach it in a way that you never approached it before. I get lessons of detachment even when I'm playing video games. My wife Jenny and I, we love to play this game called Wordscape, and it's a crossword puzzle basically. And we would do it, and there are certain times where we just get stuck. What is this word? What is this word? And as the moment I feel the constriction occur, I just turn off the game. And later, when I go about something and my vibration starts to, again, steady, set steady, I go back and immediately the word comes to me because the detachment loosens the grip and we access the gap. That's what meditation is. So, right now, if you are feeling the sense of lethargy, if you're feeling that fatigue, if you're getting that ringing in the ear, especially the right ear, which is presence of something high vibrational whizzing by you, let yourself be, let yourself rest. Remind yourselves that you are not human doings, that you are a human being. Our state of being is our currency. Are we on survival? Or are we in our joy? Because survival and joy are both currencies, and it yields things naturally. Like I said earlier, survival being our currency means that we constantly access a sense of scarcity, sense of lack. But joy, let your joy be your currency. This is not fluff. This is not some positive thinking. True positivity is when we recognize our shade, our negative sides, or when we encounter negative experience and we see that it's serving a purpose, like what I was saying about 2020. If we simply walked away from 2020 going, oh, that was the shittiest year, we're missing the point. When we begin to see how the shade and the negative is playing an important role that is also offering an equal dynamic polarity of opportunity to go toward the positive, to go toward the light, that's true positivity, you see. You can't truly be in the light if you're in denial of your shade. And that's why the inner work is so powerful. That's why for us to face our fears that these things triggered around us, these things around us that triggered us, that's when we step into our true state of positivity. It's not to avoid, to try to defend, to hide. It is now proactive and deliberate creation, cultivation, not to escape. These are very different energies. And with it, we are all being awakened to our original nature. What people called human nature in its negative polarity is pointing to true unnature. The true human nature is infinite possibility. That how we intentionally change our narrative can literally change the trajectory of our path. If you're feeling discontent or stress about where you are today, let that discontent or stress be the important alarm within you that says, hey, you're not aligned with who you are right now. Because whatever is causing it may never go away from you. But how you react to it, how you interpret it, how you transcend that experience, that's the key. Don't ever wait for the world to change for us. That's not the paradigm anymore. We live in a world where everybody expects everyone else to accommodate to us. You said what was something that was offensive, apologize. Why? Why are we policing other people's behavior to suit our own? We never change that way. We never change. We cannot change our operating system if we constantly ask for the world to accommodate to us. But instead, observe it and be done with it. It doesn't have to be. part of your reality. We constantly observe all kinds of things happening in the world. Is it part of our reality? Does it dictate? Because to the extent that we feel emotional reaction to it, there's a narrative that we resonate with it. You're not living by chance. We've never been a victim. But you see how powerful it is when we believe that. When we believe in being a victim, you see how powerful it can be. The extreme example is just by sometimes even complimenting someone. What did you mean by that? Are you laughing at me? Are you mocking me? I had one rare occasion where I was complimenting someone and it was like triggering that person's insecurity instead. And I was like, oh, okay, good. I helped to trigger it. I don't try to defend it. I don't try to explain myself. See, when we are in that kind of belief, we begin to take the world in that through that filter. So it's very important right now to examine your beliefs, your narratives. If you're still believing that you got to do in order to have, even though you were making these, some of us are doing these affirmations, chanting mantras, but yet we look at our calendar for our pay date. Then again, we're locking into that's when we get paid. This is how much work I do, and that's how much I get paid. And we limit our sense of abundance. It's amazing how hard it is for us to believe that money can come from anywhere, opportunities can come from anywhere, love and respect can come from anywhere. And it's amazing how much we can't believe that. Many people may play the lottery even, but how many of us really believe? How many of us really see and feel ourselves winning that? No, I'm not saying that's the only way, again, but any sense of abundance. Abundant, first of all, is the mindset. Can we believe in limitless ways for us to access abundance? And of course, it's not just about money. As you know, you can have $1 million in the bank, but if you're worried about losing it, you're still in the state of poverty. So moving forward, for those of us that have done our due diligence, for lack of better words, and we're going, all right, yeah. Oh, the other thing about February, by the way, aside from all the physical symptoms, is of course the emotional journey, accelerated emotional reflection, sudden old memories resurfacing. I've had a couple things that resurfaced. Hi, Liana. Our old emotions. I've had a couple that I was like, oh my God, this movie is triggering something. It's bothering me. This character is triggering something, and I'm angered by this character. And I start to trace back to what that character represents. And I start to connect with some of the things that I didn't like in my life: abusive authority, narcissism. I've also been triggered by toxic feminine. I struggled with my relationship to women, not in the sense of my wife, of course, but meaning the toxic connection to feminine energy. Because I'm coming into my awakening more and more of the divine feminine as the world is. Let me tell you, the men are waking up to their divine feminine. I'm getting more men clients. And it's tough for men. The deep programming in our genetic imprints of how a man should be, getting out of our head, which is the masculine, the linear, into heart space, heart coherence, to be led by our heart. It's very foreign to men. So I see it. I've always been creatively inclined. I love to draw. I love music. I'm a musician. So yes, it's easier for me. But even for me, when I think about my relationship to my mother, my past wives, the reaction that I was feeling toward manipulative was coming forward. And I was like, oh my God, I thought I was done with this. You see, that's part of right now what we're needing to go through, because the universe is being very thorough with us. Well, I should say we are being thorough with us. It's one and the same, you see. Whether you say, I trust God, or it's the same, because God is within you. You are the extension of the source creator. So that's another thing that right now we're meant to go through. Some of us will feel like we're seeing our life played back, fast forwarded, like I know I'm old school, but VHS, when you press the forward and you see, I've been having that. Whoa, like what just crossed my mind right now? Real quick, my past self. Sometimes it can be your literal past life or your childhood memory. It's one and the same. Whatever trauma you encountered in this life, you've recreated it from your past life in order for you to be able to re-encounter it, re-experience it, and let it resurface whatever that was there that needs to come to surface. In the same way the gold goes through its purification process and the toxins start to surface through this intense heat treatment that gold goes through. Yes. So it's not time for us to blame the triggers. Look within. Those of us that are in relationships, it's time to stop blaming what the partner is doing. I keep getting that. My partner said this and it made me feel this way. No, nothing makes you feel this way. Something makes you, within yourself, makes you choose. You are the one that's choosing to feel a certain way. And when you feel that way, which is the trigger, it's meant for you to look at. One of the things I always teach in relationship is that it's never about the other person. Never about the other person. When you are triggered, when you are inspired, it's tempting to go, oh, she makes me feel so good. She's the one. He makes me feel so much more of myself. So therefore I attach to that person. No. Thank the person, whether for the inspiration or the trigger, because when the moment you're inspired or triggered, it is uniquely designed for you. All things come in equal polarity. The greatest evils of this world is helping to circulate the consciousness toward the positive. But it's up to our conscious choice. Awareness. So moving forward, be mindful of, are you still operating on your old beliefs? Are you still doing the things that you always did? Even if you got a new operating system upgrade, if you're not putting it to the test, you won't know. If you are aware that you've gone through this transformation, put it to the test. Become aware of the old narrative still repeating. If you're wondering, why isn't anything changing? Because there's still something that's keeping you anchored in the old. The time has come for me to say goodbye to you, but I want to thank you for being here, and I want to thank you for those that have accessed this video later. But again, just always remember and become deliberate creators. Become or step into your sovereignty. And there you will find your path, your sense of purpose, your joy, and your sense of center. Be self-centered, my friends. I love you. I love me, and I feel my world around me. Let's stay connected. Please reach out if you ever have any questions. Let us all be here for one another and create synergy. Goodbye.